So, now that we know the current state of affairs, we can start optimizing the food corner's supply chain to become data-driven, and use this process to package our data-driven supply chain model. But before we do that, let's do a quick recap of the key elements of the food corner's business and operational model. Here we have to delve into the key functionality that is required to deliver on the food corner's business mandate. Firstly, from a business development aspect, the food corner has decided that it would be far easier to get small-scale farmers and producers to come to the food corner, rather than the other way around. To this effect, they have supplier self-service listing on their website. They use this as catchment from the various supplier attraction marketing campaigns, where interested suppliers can go and enter required information, and essentially list themselves onto the food corner's supplier database. The food corner's facilitators team then use this list as a hunting ground to find and validate credible suppliers to actually list on the business's vetted supplier database, along with key information such as supplier items, capacity, possible quality, logistical considerations, benchmark or reserve pricing, and so on. They also have a bidding tool that the fulfillers use as a procurement tool, where different items are loaded at a price per unit metric. They send a notification to suppliers with the required item details and required quantity, and each supplier bids a price per unit metric for different quantity levels, as well as how the maximum quantity that the supplier is able to supply for the given order. There's also room for negotiation, where suppliers can be asked for their best price. It may very well be that the supplier with a high grading, food item quality-wise, is a tiny percentage higher in bid price than a supplier with the lowest bid price at an average quality grading. It would therefore make more sense to negotiate with the higher quality supplier to lower their price slightly, perhaps with an incentive, such as guaranteed future higher quantity orders for a given period, when the given item would be high in demand, at that given price, for example. It's also important to remember that the food corner's business model only makes sense if the pooled order pricing is actually competitive for individual orders, where these orders are notably cheaper than if the customer purchased the given item from a mainstream or regular food retail outfit such as a supermarket. So the process of setting pricing benchmarks and checking the average market price against supplier bidding prices is actually quite important, especially if the full quantity of pooled orders cannot be fulfilled by one supplier, such that multiple suppliers at different quantity-driven bidding prices have to be used to fulfill the order. Furthermore, in order to avoid surprises, suppliers have to be seasonally polled for available quantities they could potentially supply. This is done on a regular basis, in order to have some future order certainty for given prominent food items for that season. In their current supply chain model, the food corner does not keep pre-order inventory. They only collect, pool and deliver items from suppliers to customers post-order. The logistics management function encompasses quite a few activities that have to be managed. One key activity is managing the separation of the pooled orders into the individual orders that contributed to the pooled order, as well as the management of actually getting those orders to customers that made them. It's important to note that the smaller orders that are used to contribute to the pooled order are not always going to come from the same area, region, or location. The whole value proposition is based upon savings gained from pooled order economies of scale, so the orders that make up the composition of the pooled order can come from anywhere. In the game of a trade-offs between customer experience and operational simplicity or convenience, customer experience should win, always. As such, the food corner's approach is that as soon as there are enough orders to make up a pooled order, for a given item, at a price that makes the deal dynamics of the supplier work, that order has to go into fulfillment, regardless of where the individual orders came from. Waiting for orders to fill up by area or region is likely to significantly impede on customer experience, especially where things such as events come into play, where specific lead times have to be met. Furthermore, putting in a highly padded standard order lead time into operational governance is likely to turn many customers away. Events such as funerals are not usually planned, and the people that would be alienated as a result of these standard order lead times would likely become future customers for other types of needs, such as planned events like weddings, or even investment club grocery pooling, so turning them away is like deliberately limiting the business's future growth. Making suppliers pack individual orders wouldn't make sense either, because firstly, the pooled orders will likely contain items from multiple suppliers, and secondly, quality assurance for grading purposes would be a bit difficult. This brings up a very key point, which is that production or manufacturing in this context involves the reception of pooled orders, quality assuring and grading the received food items, as well as packaging the individual orders from the pooled inventory received from suppliers. Production then becomes a pivotal part of the conversation, in terms of transforming the value chain into a fully fledged data-driven supply chain. How the pooled order is received, the type of packaging for each product item, for each type of customer, become a key element, because packaging is a great contributor to how customers view the product. The food corner doesn't want customers thinking these products are in some way inferior to mainstream products, invoking the whole, you get what you pay for, mindset, where these products are perceived to be knockoffs of mainstream retail products. That would make the whole exercise pointless. When the inventory is brought in terms of timing, order prioritization, which order goes out when, what is the lead time between receiving the pooled order and putting the individual orders out for delivery, the time it takes from pickup to actual delivery, is also a big factor. Making sure this process is as accurate and as seamless as possible is a big component of optimizing the whole value chain. We'll get into breaking down each stage of the value chain across activities, outputs and considerations in the next part of this chapter, Chapter 3.2, where we'll furthermore characterize the food corner's current supply chain model, as well as determine what model would best suit their business model and context, in an optimized, data-driven supply chain setup.